We are live. Welcome everyone to Fix Affair at Home. Thank you for joining us. I'm Wing, one of the coordinators of the Fix Affair, which is the City of Portland, Oregon community resource event. Before we get started, if you're a workshop attendee, you can hover over the screen and you'll see a Q&A button. Press that and you'll see a pop-up box where you can ask questions and we'll make sure they get answered. We are also broadcasting on Facebook Live. If you're watching on Facebook while we're live and leave a comment, we'll see it and make sure that it's answered too. With that, let's welcome our friends from Portland Bureau of Emergency Management and Civic Life. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for this opportunity for us to give this presentation today on preparedness and resilience. My name is Steve Wycherley, and I'm a community safety program coordinator with the Office of Community and Civic Life in the community safety team. And today I'm presenting with my esteemed colleague.
Hi, everyone. My name is Regina Ingabire. I work with Portland Bureau of Emergency Management. I'm Community Outreach Manager.
So today our presentation, in a minute, I'm going to just share a PowerPoint presentation. And we're going to talk about a couple of different topics that are pertinent to the season that we're going through. And also we're going to talk about preparedness and resilience. And throughout the presentation, please feel free to post a question and we'll do our best to answer that. So I'll go ahead here and share my screen and get this presentation up and running. And hopefully everyone can see what we're doing. All right. So resiliency and preparedness, individual, household, and community preparedness. And there's our names and contact information. I'll leave that there for a second. And we can make sure that everyone has that if you have some questions afterwards. And here's our Office of Community and Civic Life and the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management. So we've talked a little bit about our titles, and we share a common theme in the work that we do, in that we do outreach and education amongst communities to deliver various trainings that help improve resiliency and preparedness in Portland. These trainings are available to anyone who lives, works, and plays in Portland free of charge at the taxpayer's expense, of course, is what we mean. But that's a great service that we provide to anyone who's interested. And I also just want to acknowledge that today we're giving this training within the context of an interesting year in 2020, where we've experienced all kinds of things we were not expecting, and especially the pandemic. And so we just want to recognize that people may be participating in this training from different experiences right now. And we hope that this is just kind of an informative and casual experience that helps provide some information and some kind of social connection for you and for your friends. So please feel free to share this as it's on Facebook too. So first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Office of Community and Civic Life, the Community Safety Program, which I represent. And so we're housed within the Office of Community and Civic Life, and along with a number of other different programs. And the Community Safety Program organizes and supports partnerships to build safe communities that are connected, inclusive, and engaged. And we believe that our city is stronger and safer and more vibrant when all Portlanders can participate and work collaboratively and creatively on public safety. What does that mean? That means looking at issues that impact our livability. Everything from crime prevention to bringing communities together to have greater connectivity, to learn, increase in diversity and access to services, and everything from addressing graffiti to car theft to hosting potlucks and getting to know your neighbor well. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about social isolation, a little refresher on COVID-19, household preparedness, what can we do within our own homes to prepare for unforeseen and unexpected events, and then some opportunity to connect to further resources. we're going to look at what is social isolation, how do we cope with social isolation, and what steps can we take today to address this concern and reality that we're experiencing. So social isolation can affect us all and is defined as a lack of contact with others, where people experience a lack of companionship and a lack of support. And as human beings, we are social creatures. Our connection to others enables us to survive and thrive. And especially as we get older, sometimes we lose those connections as children move out of the home, or we lose touch with friends. And that can leave us vulnerable to experiencing a number of health issues and also loneliness. Research has linked social isolation and loneliness to high risks of a variety of physical and mental conditions. These include things like high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, reduced nutrition in our diet, weakened immune system. And then, of course, we may be experiencing things like anxiety and depression, which can affect our cognitive decline and impact our overall well-being. Fortunately, there are ways that we can counteract these negative effects. And we've all experienced this year how, through the restrictions around COVID-19, the opportunity to go out with friends, to socialize, to dine, restrictions on where we can and can't move, and to prevent the spread of this virus, has changed the way we live. So we're going to talk about some of the things we can do to integrate self-care. How can we make decisions about our lives that reduces the impact of social isolation? I think of when we take an airplane journey and the air stewards give us information that when the oxygen masks drop, please put the oxygen mask on yourself before you attend to your children. And that kind of theory is the same when we look at dealing with social isolation, in that it's first important to look at how am I affected by these changes in life? What can I do to position myself to be well cared for and then potentially serve other people, and such as my friends, family, neighbors. And this just list of suggestions here talks about some techniques and things we can do to address social isolation. The first one talks about breathing. And that's really about recognizing that life can be overwhelming, taking a moment to calm our inner being. Some call this meditation. There's a number of different practices we can use, but really it's about just taking that time to calm your inner being, to become self-aware, and just breathe and build that into your day. A process of just taking time to just breathe. And also we have the opportunity to really define, what is my life going to look like in my home? The best person who's going to care for you is actually yourself. The best person that's going to care for Steve is Steve. And therefore I get to kind of really set the menu about what I do during the day. And that can include exercise, moving, taking time every day. Every day at the end of my day, I do an online workout. So I'm able to access through through Zoom, through the gym that I'm a part of, an online workout, and I intentionally take time to care for my physical well-being by doing that. Eating well, hydrating, making sure I'm eating good, healthy food, or eating regularly, taking care of my nutrition. Shatai refers to making sure that I sleep well. I take the time to, go to bed at a regular time and get up at a regular time. Embrace the light. That's really referring to right now, it gets dark so early and stays dark for so long. That's about taking the time to step outside in the sunlight or in the gray light of the clouds and just be outside, to take a breath, maybe do some movement, And then when we look at social media as well, social media and social connections and Instagram, Facebook, Zoom, TikTok, Snapchat, all of these are a double-edged sword. They can be an asset to our lives in that it helps us connect to friends and family. I use Facebook weekly and FaceTime to connect with my family who's based in England. At the same time, we can receive so much volume of data and information about the world's ills, about what's going on, that it can become overwhelming. And it can reduce our ability to just function daily, because we can just add to that sense of overwhelmness. So it's both it can be a blessing and a curse in some ways. So taking the time to really identify, how am I using these sources of information and technology? And the other thing is recognizing is that not everyone has access to technology or social connectivity through technology. And the question is, what do we do when we are having neighbors or friends who don't have access to the internet? Well, one thing we can do is just keep an eye out for our neighbors. If you do see your neighbors' newspapers or mail piling up, or things don't look normal or look like they've been neglected for a period of time, then take the time to perhaps knock on the door, follow COVID practices of masking and washing hands and all those things. But that's another way that we can reach out to our neighbors, is actually recognizing who do I live nearby, what's happening in my street. I was actually away for a week, and my neighbor was concerned something had happened, and 4 or 5 days into a trip outside of Oregon, I got a text asking if I was okay. Was I still around? Was I still alive? And I hadn't told my neighbor I was going to be away. And so I thought that was very, very delightful, actually. There was a concern of, we haven't seen Steve around. Is he all right? Where is he? So we can also do that for our neighbors and get to know the people that are on our street. Then caring for others. If I'm in a position of managing my own life, my own self, I'm self-aware about social isolation and the things I can do, that gives me, if I choose, it's always voluntary, to care for others. We've talked about connecting through social media, recognizing the digital divide, connecting through local service providers. I know for me, I find kind of meaning and purpose when I'm helping others. So this weekend, I'm taking the opportunity to deliver some food parcels with the Sunshine Division Food Bank to families that have requested a holiday food parcel. And taking that opportunity to volunteer, to get out of my routine, to do something positive is affirming, it's motivating. And so within your community, connect to and do research about local service providers. Who is in need of volunteers? Is that something I can do? And then pay attention to your neighbors. And don't be afraid to ask. If you have a pet, you're walking your dog and you see someone else walking their dog, don't be afraid to say hi and just find out how other people are doing. So there is actually a test online you can take through the American Associations of Retired Persons. I'll leave that up there for a second. It's called connecttoeffect.org. And this is just a simple self-assessment that asks a number of questions and will identify if you're at risk of social isolation, loneliness, and then we talked about the domino effect that can have on our lives. And so that's something you can access and look at and ask the question of, how connected are you? Are you connected to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family? And then let's just do a quick refresher on COVID-19 safety guidelines. If you are going to volunteer or get out and about, it's important to wash our hands frequently to make sure that we're not passing on the virus to other people. Avoid touching your face, because we may touch surfaces that are infected that then our body can become infected through our eyes, nose, and mouth. Cover if we're coughing or sneezing so that we don't spread droplets. Practice physical distancing so that if I do carry the virus and I don't have any symptoms, are not passing that on. Clean and disinfect surfaces in the workplace and at home, and even in your car if you have people that ride in your car. And also limit your trips, stay close to home, wear a face mask, covering in public, which is required. And we have a video here. I'm just going to quickly check the time to see if we have enough time. I think we do, Regina, have enough time to show this. It's 2 minutes. Yeah. So I'm going to hit play and we'll just watch this together.
As you've probably heard, novel coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, has spread all around the world. This is how you can help keep the virus from spreading to yourself and to others. Here is how to minimize the risk of the virus continuing to spread as we open up again. Many people with COVID have no symptoms at all, so continue protecting yourself and others by staying home, except for essential trips. When in public or at work, wear a face covering and stay 6 feet from others. Wash your hands often with soap and water. Rub hands together for at least 20 seconds while you wash them. It's very important to do this when you arrive at home and before you eat or prepare food. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or face. The virus can survive a long time on frequently touched surfaces. If you touch them and then touch your face, you can spread the virus and may get sick. Cough or sneeze into your elbow or into a tissue. Throw the tissue into the trash and wash your hands. If you contain your coughs and sneezes, it will help stop the virus from infecting others. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces every day. Don't forget doorknobs, kitchens, bathrooms, and mobile phones. Stay home. Save lives. Avoid gatherings and close contact with people outside of your home. Don't shake hands or touch them. Keep at least 6 feet away from others. This distance greatly reduces the chance of getting or spreading the virus. You can still wave and be friendly to others. With more exposure to other people, your risk of catching the virus grows very quickly. This is why it is safer to stay at home. Make sure you have the food and medications you need to stay at home for an extended period of time. Call or text friends or relatives who may need assistance, especially the most vulnerable. That includes people 65 years and older, anyone with a serious health condition including lung and heart problems, kidney disease, or diabetes, anyone who has a suppressed immune system, or pregnant women. Staying apart doesn't mean you can't stay connected to loved ones. Call someone and chat, get some fresh air, offer to help if you can. Stay informed by calling 211 on your phone or check out www.moltco.us/COVID-19. Be safe and do your part. We will get through this together.
Thank you. So if you have any further questions or information about the Community Safety Program, my email address is there, steve.wycherley@portlandoregon.gov. And that's my work contact number. And thank you so much. If you have any further questions, please feel free to post them in the Q&A. And at this time, I will hand over to Regina.
Thanks to Steve. Thanks everyone for joining us today. And thanks Wing and your team for organizing this training. We don't have much time, but I'll try my best to cover the main points here. So I want to give you just a quick overview of the work of Portland Bureau of Emergency Management. That's actually a picture of our office. We are in Southeast, next to 911. I hope after this pandemic, I would welcome you to our bureau to show you the work we do there. So our main job as Bureau of Emergency Management, we work with other bureaus, but as coordinating bureau, I can tell you, for example, during this pandemic, we are coordinating response and recovery of COVID-19, where we bring other bureaus to kind of put our efforts together in our response and recovery process. So we are not like separate bureau. We work closely with the other agencies. Just as Stevie mentioned, our job is also to leverage our work across other bureaus to make sure that we can have a larger impact to the communities we serve. Next. Okay, so my presentation is, it tends to cover to be mainly for earthquake preparedness, but I want to just tell you that we believe that if you're prepared for the earthquake, you'll be prepared for anything. As you may know, that our region is prone to the big one. I think people just keep asking when that's going to happen. So we just want to make sure that in addition to other things we cannot control, including earthquake, we cannot stop it, but just we can do our part on an individual level, on household level, on a communal level, what we can on our own to make sure that we can stay safe, keep safe our loved ones, our pets, our homes as much as we can. So I'll cover those things in the next slide. Next one. So the first one, actually, how many of you know what to do when if earthquake happens right now? At least let's learn about these 3 basic simple things you can do. You drop, you cover, and hold. So this actually will be really good to scan. I know many of us these days work from home. I want you to look around your house, wherever you are, you're sitting right now. Just imagine if earthquake will happen right now, what would you do? Do you have that study desk you can go under? Do you have that chair you can go under if possible? Anyway, I just want to give you that mental picture and just think about what could you do if the earthquake will happen right now. And if someone is in a wheelchair, you rock the wheelchair, so make sure you won't be moving at that point. And then you cover your head and neck as much as you can, and then you hold until the shaking has stopped. You'll be able to move around. So please make sure you share this information with the kids. I know most of us are home these days as a family. We're working from home. We have kids doing schoolwork at home. This would be really good habit to start talking with the children and engaging them in this conversation. Okay, now we're going to get personal. That means we're going to talk about things we can do on a personal level and what we can do as a community, because what we always believe that we are more prepared as a community. And yes, we can start on an individual level, but if you can spread whatever you learn here today, share with your neighbor, and then the neighbor shares with neighbor, before we know it, the whole community is prepared, or at least they know what to do in the case of a major earthquake. Okay, number one thing I would like to emphasize everyone to do at home is identifying potential hazards. These days we're all stuck at home, we're doing work from home. Very few of us goes to the office, but I really challenge you today, if there's one thing you can learn from this class today, just identify those potential hazards around your home. Look around in your living room, look around in your bedroom, look around outside, even outside. You know, if there was a major earthquake, do you have those power lines that could easily fall on your house? Look for those, if you live in high-rise buildings, what could happen? So I just want you to have that picture. Just think, look around, think what you can do and how you can make sure that everything is safe. You have safe routes, you can escape if you have to. Just to, when you start scanning around, you can be able to identify things that needs to be removed. For example, you have those pictures hanging on the wall, there's a TV. Are you sure that they're fixed enough that they won't, if there's a ground shake, they won't fall down and hurt people? What kills people or hurt people during any earthquake, it's not the ground shaking, it's the things that falls on us. So by identifying those potential hazards around your home, around outside, near your home, I think that's the best thing to do. And that's really great starting point. And remember, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just being aware. And once you start becoming aware of those things, that's how we start getting prepared. Okay, who is relying on you? After identifying those potential hazards, I really want to start thinking now about your family or your household. Who lives in your house? Who depends on you? Do you have small kids? Do you have those lovely pets who during this pandemic, I think many people have got so many pets. You know, they're kind of our, they give us a lot of emotional support these days. So those guys will rely on you as well. Do you have people in your home that have issues maybe with the mobility? How do they move from one point to another point? So think about those people who relies on you and how you can be able to protect them. Okay, now it's time to make a plan. After you identify those things around your home and in your family, now next thing is to get started. As Stevie mentioned earlier on, like getting to know your neighbor is just crucial as much as getting to preparing a fast emergency kit. It's just important as getting to identify those potential around your home, because your neighbor is likely to be a first person who come and check on you, but also you're likely to be the first person to go check on your neighbor. I don't think there's any loss at all getting to know your neighbor. And actually there have been some researches that found out that about 95% of people rescued during a disaster are rescued by their neighbors. So I encourage all of us to get to know our neighbors. If there's that neighbor moved in your neighborhood, you have a knock on the door, just to introduce yourself. I think even within during COVID time, we can still be able to introduce our neighbors and get to know them, and they can know us as well. And the good reason about knowing your neighbors, you know, that if anything happens to you, or let's say there's major earthquake and you are stuck across the river, at least you have someone who can say, can you go check on my house, make sure everyone at home is safe. So again, getting to know that neighbor is crucial as just analyzing like the people who rely on you during pandemic during earthquake is much as important, getting to know your neighbor as well. And also another thing we talk about here, I know most of us these days, we are stuck home with the children because they're doing a school at home with us. But we believe that at the end of this pandemic, kids will go back to school. You have to think about, if you're stuck on the other side of the river and anything happens to you, do you have someone who can pick your children from school? So those are things, again, comes to your neighbor. You're not going to ask someone who doesn't live next to you to go pick up the kids. Yes, you could, but I think the immediate neighbor is likely to be a fast person to go to. And we'll talk about also having, creating a list of contact, the contact of state and the contact within, in your city or your neighbors, but also having out of state contact is just as much as important as having that neighbor contact as well. Can we go next? Okay, that's a plan I was kind of referring to. We are now soon we are home, but the kids are at school. And if anything happens to you and you're not able to get to your home safely, at least you can have that neighbor go pick up the kids at school. And also when we make the plan, think about that, especially I want to emphasize here point about out of state contact. Let's say you have a sister, cousin, or parents who live on the other side of the country. That's a really good backup plan, because during, again, this conversation is going to be around major disasters, especially like earthquake. But when you could have our parent could be compromised, our cell towers could be compromised at a point. But if you have that out of state contact, that will be the person you can call, because the call is likely to go fast out of state, because there won't be a traffic jam in that area, like in their communication route. It's not going to be jammed as if here when we're trying all to call each other and checking on neighbors, checking on friends, your partners, to make sure they're safe. So pretty much there will be like traffic jam of calls. But if you have the out of state contact, that call outside the state is likely to go out faster, because in the other end, they don't have that traffic jam of calls. So bear that in mind, and that's very critical to, when you're making your plan, think about those out of state contacts. And also another thing I want to remind people, you can actually text. I had that text will go faster than a call. And again, a text, when it doesn't go fast, sometimes keeps trying until it goes through. So that's the best thing to bear in mind as well. And also make sure that when you make out these communication plan, make sure it's all shared by everyone in your house. at least even for the kids, you'll be amazed how much information they can retain. For example, if the kids can remember the phone number of their parents, the phone number of aunt, or maybe uncle or sister, just additional support of anyone that they can call to if they're not able to connect with you. And before we get into how to make your basic kit for home or for a car, I want to emphasize that when you make that communication plan, make sure also to select a location, like a safe space you can go to in the case after major disaster, especially a major, again, I'm referring to earthquake. Make sure that there's a safe meeting location near your home that you can all decide this is the location we're going to meet at. It could be at the school's like open field, could it be at the park, anywhere that you know that it's likely to be safe. That's, most of parks are likely to be 100% safe after major earthquake, because they know we don't have any big buildings next to it. The trees may collapse, but still. Anyway, I think that would be my first place I could ask people to look for when they're thinking about safe meeting place for the whole family. Let's say if anything happens, everyone in the home will know that I am going to walk if you can walk. I'm going to drive if you can drive at a meeting location, because that's where we decided we are going to meet at. So think about that as well. The next slide. So we always get this question like, what can I put in my basic kit for work and car? I know we live in Oregon. Many people go camping. I'll say that your camping tools, if you're a camper, that's good starting point. But if you're not camper, that's not bad news either. We all have that second pair of walking shoes we don't use all the time. So just grab that, put in a car. We encourage people to have like simple things, even like a whistle, that could really rescue you in case there's rubble around you or you're stuck in the car. That you can use that whistle to let fast responders know that you are stuck somewhere. Make sure you have water. Make sure you have at least dry food, like granola bars, it's a good starting point. And make sure you have like radio in case you want to be able to know what's happening and getting, updates on communications, what's happening out there and where to go. Make sure you have batteries, but don't put them ready at that point because they're likely to clog over time. So you keep them separately. Have a little bit sample of like hygiene tools you may need. I'll tell you the trick I do, which is really simple. Each time I go to a dentist, you know how they give you extra toothbrush, toothpaste, and I always keep that. I always immediately put that in my emergency toolkit. I didn't buy it. And it's right there. It's just perfectly and nicely done. So that has become a habit in our house. Even the kids know that each time we go to the dentist, like, oh, we got extra emergency supply kit. So we'll make sure that we have some in the car and some at work. That again, work, that's like a backup plan. And the car also, you never know where could you be at. That's another good point that's another good location to store stuff just for emergency. And if you have small kids, think about that. If you needed that extra diapers, if you need bottle, just think about everyone in your home who relies on you. If you can have just a little bit of everyone in your car, in case you're stuck in the car, at work, that's like another backup plan. Just think broadly. Put in that little backpack you have laying at home, and that's really good starting point. I encourage everyone to do that. And it doesn't have to, it kind of get really expensive buying this stuff, but if you look around your home, you always have extra for everything. So just pack that extra, put aside outside of your home, at least you have, that's your backup plan. Next. Okay. We also tend to get this question a lot, what to store, how to acquire economically, and where to store my stuff. Those questions will differ from one person to another person, depending how's your household. Are you a single person living by your own? I think that makes it easier because you kind of control everything around you. But also, Like some people have like separated garage, some don't. Some people live in apartments, others don't. So you have to look around your home, your surroundings. I mean, your neighbor, again, could be another person who can store stuff for you if you don't have enough space in your location. So I want you to be very creative. And one thing I want to emphasize at this point, as I said, buying this stuff can be expensive. But however, though, if you choose to make your own emergency kit, I would encourage you to make your own. Really avoid buying the one which are kind of pre-made. You can buy them online, but what I found out, they tend to be extra expensive, and sometimes they have things in it that you won't really need. Or even the food they have, it's one piece of like dried food, looks like a brick. So if I'm stuck in any sort of disaster, I want to eat the food I enjoy and my family would enjoy. So I would, again, encourage you to really pack your own thing because you know what's in there. You know what you need, rather than buying commercially packed one, which tend to be overpriced. The next. Okay. So this is simple stuff you can put under the bed. You can have that water container, water bottle. That's good starting point. We will have extra at our homes. You need those shoes. Again, if earthquake happens, you may need to get out of your house. At that point, you need to grab those shoes, put them on. And the bed is a really good starting point. You need that pair of gloves. You never know what you may need to remove, from your bedroom to get outside. There may be some rebels on the way out, so the gloves that can become handy. Flashlight, a must. Power is likely to be out, but if you have a flashlight, you'll be able to see what's happening around you. And again, I can see even this sample we had there, we had masks. Now they are masks. I think we all have masks in our cars and everywhere in the house. Again, the masks are really good because you never know what debris could be out there, and you want to make sure that you're not breathing anything that could harm you. That's just, again, that's a sample. Please feel free to expand it as may seem fit for you and your family. Okay, number one priority of all things we can start preparing for is water. We need the FEMA and other emergency preparedness agencies, they recommend 1 gallon per person per day for 14 days. It's not that we use that much water every day, but we know that we can use water for so many things, for cooking, for bathing. If you have small kids, you know how much water they can need. You have pets, so we want to make sure that you save as much as water as possible. And again, these are tips we give you. You can, option 1, you can buy water from water bottles from stores. Each time you go to a grocery store, I think they cost like 99 cents. Those big gallons, you can just make a plan, say every time I go to the grocery store, I'm just gonna buy 2 gallons maybe a day, maybe each trip. That over time, they'll add up and you won't feel that the financial burden that comes with it. Another option is actually, we all have water heaters, most of us in our homes. That's another location that you already have water here. It's just know how to access it. I hope we will make these slides available for anyone to be able to access them on your own. If you click on this link here, access water from water heater, you'll be able to, go through, it gives you instructions how to access water from your water heater. It's very simple and very, very important. Some people collect rainwater. Again, remember to add a bridge to clean the water, especially those collected from rain. Go ahead. Okay, again, number 2 priority in terms of preparedness is food. Prepare non-perishable food that doesn't need to be cooked, that can be able to eat right away if you have to. Prepare food that has low sodium. Again, that's just to make sure that if you, not only that they're healthy, but also make sure that you don't need a lot of water because you'll be thirsty, and the water at that point could be very scarce. Pack food that are high in protein. That, again, that will maintain you, will keep you really good health in good shape while we are going through all these, whatever that could be happening at that point. Again, when you pack the food your family will enjoy. Don't just pack the food from random picture you saw on the newspaper or online. Just make sure that you can tell everything to your family, to yourself, and maybe even to your neighbor. Remember, we're also encouraging people to get to their neighbors. So just think about what you need, what would work for you, and in your budget. And the best way to do it is just to plan slowly, taking that baby steps. So say each time you go to the grocery store, maybe say today I'm buying 2 cans of beans. Next day, maybe another time I'm going to buy a can of maybe tomato soup, anything, but just start on, you can start small, and over time, you'll be amazed how much you're able to accumulate without feeling that financial burden. And number 3, we emphasize on shelter. Think about where would you go if maybe your home is not habitable at that moment. I remember like a few months ago, we went through that, the fire we had in our neighbors here, and then the smoke. We are lucky in Portland, we didn't get to evacuate. But for people who had to evacuate, they have to think about like, where did you go? Do you have, again, as I said earlier, if you're a camper, pretty much you have everything you need to be able to evacuate and camp outside if you can. Again, by all of us taking one action to be prepared, maybe avoiding even going to shelters, remember that we're creating that space for someone else who maybe is unable to prepare to that extent to be on their own. So we always think this, not just ourselves, but also a large community. And if we're able to do our own part, small as can be, I think in the end, we'll all be saving each other. Next. Okay, that's simple surprise, but don't forget, if you're buying those kind of food, remember to have a can opener. You don't be stuck with the cans of food that you cannot open. Remember to have blankets, especially during this season. You don't be stuck without like a blanket or sleeping bags if you can. Remember that first aid kit may become handy. Just think about all those little things standing there that you may need that may be helpful at that point. The next one. Very good one here. We think about money, medical, like medications, and important documents to keep. We all have our passports, birth certificates of our children, our insurance policy for our homes, for our cars. Please make sure that you, at least if you can, make copies of those documents. First of all, put them in one place. They're not scattered over the house. And then if you can make copies, you can make electronic copies and save those in your emails. Or again, you can have hard copies, maybe one copy saved at work. If your office is safe space, you can put those important documents there. And make sure that at least the one you have there in one location. Again, referring even to recent, when we had the fires, when people had to evacuate, think about, you just grab that and leave the house. Those important documents, they're very hard to replace and very expensive too sometimes. But if you have them in one place, that's really good starting point. And those things don't cost anything. It's just getting a little bit organized and knowing what to put in there. Medication, that's another one. If you can even take a picture of the your bottle with the prescription medication you take, that could be handy if you cannot access your medication on time. After major disaster, we're going to have a medication distribution center, but that could be enough just to identify who you are and the medication you take and the dose. Without, if you can't reach your doctor to be able to prescribe that, at least you can be able to have a proof, and that would save you time, would save everyone's headache to get you medication. Another question we always get is about, why do I need to have some cash? We are like, yeah, especially after, again, I'm referring to a big earthquake here, but if the power lines are down, our credit cards are not going to be able to work. But if you have cash, you can be able to use to buy any items you need. And remember also to have like small bills, like 10, 5, 20s, because you don't be stuck with $100 bill when maybe at that point you cannot get change back. So I just want you to have open mind whenever you're preparing. Think about like, what's the scenario, but also think what you can do within your own power. This way you can control. We cannot control the earthquake, but we can have my medication ready. I can have my documents ready. I can have a little bit of cash with me. Just think about the peace of mind brings, that all that brings to you, and you'll be able to pretty much handle the rest. The next.
Again, hi, Regina. This is Wing with the Fix It Fair. I just wanted to let you know that we're at the time marker. We do have one question, and then I want to replay the video, but I want to give you as much time as you need to wrap up as well.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up really quickly here. There's a storage option that comes up. That's a question we get asked a lot. Again, we don't have one proof answer, but just look around your house and see how much you have and where can you store them safely, that you can be able to reach them in case after major earthquake. If you put everything in the basement, you should know that maybe that's not safest place, but maybe you can put other things there just in case your house don't fall apart. Okay, the next one. Okay, again, don't panic. This is stuff are easy. Just take a breath, as Steve said, and you'll be able to get back on track. And I want to encourage people also to look on, sign up for public alerts. If you go to publicalerts.org, you'll be able to actually see other communication too in the region, like in Craig County, in Washington County, and Vancouver area. So you can be able to access more information that are beyond Portland area. And I want to offer, like, this is some other trainings PBEM provide. My colleague, they run great programs with the Beacon program. That's best earthquake emergency communication nodes. Those are only for Portland area. And then also have neighborhood emergency teams, the NET program. Those are great programs. I encourage you to check them out on our website and find ways you can get involved. And we have additional information here for our colleagues who live in the city of Vancouver, Clackamas County, and Washington County. You can be able to click on these links. You get more information in that particular to those locations. So thanks, everyone. Those are my contacts out there, regina.ingabire@portlandoregon.gov. And my phone number is 503-522-0529. Feel free to call me or give me, send me email. I'll be happy to connect with you further if you want to. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Regina and Steve. We do have a couple of questions, so I will read those out. So our first question is, in an earthquake, once you are connected with your family, do you recommend hunkering down and staying put, or trying to get outside of the city?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's say you are connected with your family, everyone is safe, your house is safe. I guess it would depend on locations, because some areas may have major, major distractions, I'll say, but some areas are really put that you may be able to stay at home. But I would also be really listening to what officials will be recommending at that point, because you don't want to go in your house in case there could be aftershocks that could end up, being a disaster of its own kind while you have survived the disaster. So I'd encourage you to stay put, maybe outside somewhere where it's safe, and listen to officials what they have to say, if it's safe to go back in the house. We're likely to have some gas leak, we have to have some water damage, but want to make sure that it's safe to get back in the house. And those calls will be determined by officials, maybe after doing a general assessment from one location to another location.
Thank you. And our second question actually feels kind of related to the first. The question is, how do you know if your home is structurally sound for re-entry, or if you should seek shelter elsewhere after an earthquake?
Yeah, I think, again, as you say, it's related to the first question. I would say that most of homes, I think, that were built before before 1973, which I think most of homes here in Portland are, they're not, I think there's, they do not follow like they need to be retrofitted to be earthquake proof. But again, what I would ask you is that you can have, if you have means, it could, because it could be really costly to retrofit your home, but you won't allow to have someone assess your home, how stable it could be after major earthquake, to make sure that it will be safe to get back in the house. But that's very tricky. Again, I think listening to the officials, what they'll have to say, that's very, very important. And if you go to publicalert.org, I believe there's where you can put an address on that. There's a first page where you can assess different like different disasters that are likely to impact your region. And if you put your home address, sometimes I can tell you the level of like in the case of earthquake, they will tell you if you're in a red zone, then you know that it won't be safe to go back in the house. But if you're in a green zone, it's pretty much it's likely to be safe, because it depends on how the rock underneath us is stable. Some rocks, I guess that's how the earthquake happens, just the ground shaking. So some locations are that are not that steady, but some locations are really, really strong, that even the ground shake may not have major impact. But also you can look for floods. If you go on that website, it can show you all the levels of disasters that are likely to impact your area where you are.
Great, thank you. We have a couple more questions coming in. Are there any key differences in handling an earthquake that happens in the summer versus winter when it's cold and rainy?
Well, from what I have heard from experts, they say that if earthquake will happen during summer, we are likely to have fewer casualties, because during summer, again, it's a dry season, you know how Poland gets wet. And during wet season or winter season, we're likely to have many casualties because the ground is saturated with water. We're likely to have what they call soil liquefaction, that pretty much anything's likely to melt under the ground. So it's not the pretty thing, but the impact will be different. Summer will have less impact than during winter season because of rain and the ground being very wet.
Interesting. Okay, and one more question here. Is there any threat of damage being done to Portland after a major earthquake from a tsunami, or risk of Mount Hood becoming active again?
Wow, those are really good questions. Like Portland, because we are far from the ocean, we are likely not to have tsunami at all, because just depending, you know, the proximity from the ocean, just that obvious. But Mount Hood, I cannot say, because those are very scientific questions. I would have to go dig deep and say, to be able to say how much impact to be made in Portland. But again, I think proximity is likely to give us a little bit of buffer here. Portland is likely to be safe, but again, though, being downtown, maybe the high-rise buildings, the bridges, that's the risk we have rather than tsunami. And maybe if the mountains may erupt again. But those are really great questions. If I could follow up, maybe I could, I'm going to ask my colleagues, or even some studies that were done by a group of scientists, so I can post them here for further education for people to review on their own. Those are really great questions. Very impressive.
You can visit us online to receive our e-newsletter updates, and also check out our resource directory. Thanks again to PBEM and Civic Life for this really valuable presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.